Big first question. You a Red Sox fan?
You know, Greg, it's a real challenge for me. I grew up in Western Massachusetts as a Yankee fan. And, thank you. I feel more at home in New York. But I married into a Red Sox family, which has had its own challenges. And it's been one of the great tests of civility to watch us maneuver that. But I grew up with Mickey Mantle, who was finishing his career, and that sort of crept over into the Springfield, Holyoke area, and I became a Yankee fan. But it's been an interesting ride. I was part of a generation that still had the inspiration in many ways of what John Kennedy represented, I think, to young people in America. Certainly growing up in Massachusetts, growing up as an Irish Catholic young man in Massachusetts, there was great attraction to Jack Kennedy and then to Bobby Kennedy, and their passion for politics and for government, and their belief that politics in and of itself was a noble calling. And I think that's something, as we pursue the civility conversation at Allegheny and the Civility Prize, the Prize for Civility in Public Life at Allegheny, I've referred back to that very often, that we've lost a bit in this country, I think, the sense that there is nobility in the political calling, the sense that there can be joy in politics, and that you can make a difference in politics. And I think I came out of that generation, however one might feel about the politics of the Kennedys. There was that sense of inspiration and calling that resonated with me, and I think with so many of us. Today's young people are, according to any survey you will see, remarkably committed to service. The Allegheny student body last year, 2,100 students, did 61,000 hours of community service. And my student colleagues, the Vignettes of old, were here, and I'm very proud of that. I think what we worry about is that while we celebrate that commitment to service, that we try to encourage young people to find fulfillment in serving in public life. And I find often as I talk to students, just incredibly encouraging sense of commitment to community, making a difference, serving. And yet when I then bring up politics, I don't feel that same sense of excitement. And why? How can we blame them? I mean, turn on the TV, turn on the radio, read the blogs. It is not an edifying experience. So what we are hoping in our way is, as it is possible to bemoan the lack of civility in public life, Allegheny wants to shine the light on those who are civil. And that's the genesis of the Allegheny Prize for Civility in Public Life, to find two individuals who are partisan in their politics, who are in the center of the arena, who are passionate about what they believe. They are not perfect, but they attempt to conduct the nation's business in a civil manner and hold them up and say there is the possibility of doing this. And I'm afraid if we don't begin to emphasize this, that we're going to lose a wonderful generation to public life and to politics. They'll make great difference. They'll do remarkable things. They will succeed. But they won't do what John Kennedy called our generation to do, which is find the nobility in elective office or public life. In year one, we offered the prize to David Brooks and Mark Shields. I think that they represent so much of the best of what journalism can be about. Discussion of big issues, done in a civil manner, yet a frank and a passionate manner. Journalists are at the center of the whole civility conversation. They are in the arena, they set the tone. So we thought it was very appropriate in year one to honor David and Mark. This year, we decided that we would go right into the arena. And that is not easy to do. I'm sure if I asked you, find the elected officials in Washington who are committed to civility in the public conversation. It's not something where a whole host of names come to the forefront of your thinking. we look back and said, who are two very strong partisans who have engaged the battle, if you will, who have made a difference over the course of their careers, and who are proudly partisan. And we knew that we would have some controversy when we made that selection, but we chose Senator Dianne Feinstein and Senator Lindsey Graham. And it was very interesting. People immediately pointed to where they found instances where they might not have been civil. But if you look across the course of their careers, here are two people who have tried from two very partisan positions to do the nation's business, respecting each other and the institution of Congress. It was interesting that the day after they received the award at the National Press Club in Washington, there was a hearing on gun control. And Senator Feinstein was chairing the hearing, and Senator Graham was on the committee. And Senator Graham was in a fairly heated exchange with a person who was testifying. And the crowd was becoming a bit rambunctious, and Senator Feinstein said, please, could we hold down for a moment? Senator Graham, we're going to have civility in this room. Senator Graham and I just received an award for civility, and we're going to try to be civil in the conduct of our business. So that was, I thought, somewhat encouraging. American democracy depends on a certain contentiousness, and I think we should accept that. I also think that what we're trying to ask in the Civility Prize, and I think our two recipients this past year invite that conversation. What is tough politics versus what is uncivil? I'm hoping what our conversation on civility does at Allegheny is invite this kind of conversation. What is civil? What is tough? What is partisan? Where does partisanship cross into incivility? To what extent does civility relate to compromise? One could argue that you could be a very civil elected official and never compromise. But I could also argue you will never find compromise if you don't find a way to in some way be civil. So we're trying to force these questions. As we've reflected on characteristics of civility, I've mentioned a couple of them today. But it seems to me that what I fear we're losing in our engagement in politics, public life, but in our day-to-day engagements. One is this sense of humility, that, we are not perfect, that our views are not the only views in the world of ideas, and that perhaps we should step back and engage others with a sense of humility. I think that's number one, and I think we could all point to cases where that's somewhat lacking. Two, I think that connected to humility is a respect for the other, and respect for the inherent dignity of that person, and a respect for the fact that that person has a point of view, and although I may disagree with it, I should at least hear it. And that comes to number three, a willingness to listen, which I think if we turn on the talk shows, I'm not sure there's a lot of listening going on, but a humility, respect, a willingness to listen, and now I'll come back to politics. A belief in what politics can achieve, a belief in a certain nobility in serving in public office, and a sense of joy in public life. We've lost that. I don't see a lot of people in elective office at the national level who are transmitting a sense of joy about getting up every morning and doing the people's business. I'm feeling a lot of anger. I'm feeling a lot of condemnation of their opponents. But I'm not having, there was an era we could point to. I think, like him or not like him, Hubert Humphrey felt a certain joy when he got up in the morning and went about the business of the people. Daniel Patrick Moynihan, we can go down the list from Republican or Democrat. I don't sense that as much. But I think all of those are